Hello, and welcome to Knights of the Night Actual Play Podcast. This 5th edition D&D adventure, The Heretic, was written and run by our DM, Scott. And now, please enjoy episode 480, titled Dappleshanks the Dangerous. Actual play begins immediately.
Hello, I'm Scott. I'll be your DM tonight for this 5e adventure, The Heretic. With me tonight, starting on my right, is...
I'm Tom, playing Alder Rusha, a human male cleric of Amira, and a new skill-seeking rogue.
I'm Mike, playing Marduk, a male half-orc fighter, graduate of the Academy, and new Fist of Amira.
I am Jim, playing Grodor, a hobgoblin warlock and one of the mighty Fists of Amira, always searching for truth, knowledge, and power.
I'm John, playing Melody, a female human cleric, the third of the exemplar Family Harmony, ex-ambassador turned political operative.
I'm Thomas. I'm playing Gabrielle d'Angelis. She's a female human paladin, the Holy Fist of Amira, on a mission to the Hollowlands.
All right. Where we left off last week was you had traveled to a small village called Copshire, where you were greeted by the town pillar, a halfling by the name of Merrick Plumbottom. His ingratiating manner rubbed some people the wrong way, but eventually what you got out of him was that there has been some mysterious goat slayings in the village the last 2 nights. Also, last night, there was a farmhand who was killed along with a goat at the Sundaro family farm. Some of you broke off to go to a makeshift morgue where you learned some things about the deceased. Another group of you went over to the Sundaro farm to speak to the farm owner, Ulrich Sundaro, got some information from him and looked around the barn area to see what you could find out in regards to clues. The other group joined forces at the Sundaro farm, and now everyone is in one place as we begin tonight's adventure. We'll say that Brother Byron's there. I'll role-play him the best I can.
Right, I was going to ask him about his autopsy, if he's the one who did it.
All I remember is talon across the throat didn't look like it was a weapon, it looked like it was a claw or talon or something. Though a lot of bruising, like he got beat up by something big, like bludgeoning, something smashed into him.
I remember him being hung upside down, and there was surprisingly no blood dripping out of him.
Right.
Out of everything that's been killed this way.
It also suggests that there may be more than one being or person doing this.
I think it was a collective effort from multiple people?
It just seems that stringing up loss of blood, a single swipe, may indicate a ritual slaying.
It's possible, but I think the kind of coordination like that would be difficult to achieve in a town this small without it being noticed. She leans up against the wall, but is interested to hear more about your idea.
I've been wrong before, but that's not to say that I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, this is the main community center, community area of people. So if there are culprit or culprits, I guess the odds are good that they are maybe townspeople themselves.
These killings have been taking place like late at night, midnight-ish, I'm guessing.
Well, there seems to be, and this is an instinct, I don't have hard evidence, but I feel that there is an escalation. The first kill was a simple animal. The second kill was the goat herder. And it seems like there is a progression or an escalation to this.
I got a question about the way they were hung up. Were they hung up like stabbed with a meat hook into their bodies, or were they tied and hung by these hooks?
Merrick speaks up and says, well, it was a meat hook into the torso of the goat the first night and the second night, and also meat hook to the torso of poor Galvin.
I was going to say, it would show more planning and intelligence if it was tied with a rope, but even so, something specifically coming back to this barn for a second time to do the same thing. And you could hang a body up and bleed it out anywhere. I'm wondering why it keeps happening here in this barn. I mean, if we have time before it gets dark, I don't know how much daylight we got.
It was 8?
It was 8, so
Is it summer?
It's summer, but in this particular area of the world, it gets dark because it's late summer. They don't have daylight saving times, so it gets dark around 8 o'clock. So you're at dusk right now. The sun is just
it's starting to rain,
kissing the horizon, and it's also gray because of the drizzle that's happening and the rain clouds.
The only other one thing I really would like to take the time to look at is this guy's residence. That guy was killed, just to make sure he didn't have anything funny going on or wasn't involved in something obvious and weird.
That's fair.
So Merrick has been watching the back and forth of your questions to each other with wide eyes and interest. Yeah?
Wonderful opportunity. I forgot Merrick was here. Thank you for reminding me. Did you know anybody who had any issues with the farmhand or Ulrich himself who might be trying to mess with the farmstead in town? I find it difficult to believe that kind of resentment could stir up, but you would certainly know something about it.
Yeah, Galvin was pretty well liked around the village. He was a good kid. I don't know what he was doing near the farmstead so late at night. That's confusing to me. I don't understand why he would be in the vicinity unless he was abducted elsewhere and brought to the farm. But we didn't notice any blood anywhere else or any drag marks that we could see. It's really confusing. He was relatively well liked as far as I'm aware, and I've got a pretty good idea of what's going on in the town, being both the Pillar and the Watchlord.
Of course.
So, yeah, I'm not quite sure. And the farm itself, I mean, I'm trying to think. Ulrich lost his wife about 6 months ago. There's a little bit of rumors around town that a young school teacher by the name of Morgan has been coming to tutor the kids and maybe more. That sounds like salacious gossip to me, but that's what's in the grapevine. I don't see how that fits into any of this, but that's all I really could say about the farm. It's a goat farm. It's not like he's a bit gruff. I mean, not the most personable of individuals, but he's not hated or despised in town. He's just known to be short of words and more of a man of action.
Okay. Alder, do you think you could check out the barn and see if there's anything we missed? You have a better eye for that kind of thing.
I certainly can, but to me, this seems more a question of what's changed.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't something that's happened before. This is something that's new.
One of the conspiracy things that I'm kind of thinking of is this started 2 nights ago. Mm-hmm. And 2 nights ago, I think it's also when those wood gnome red caps popped out and started causing trouble. So I wonder what happened 2 nights ago in the world, maybe, that's causing weird shit to happen. Maybe there's a change in, because those red caps came from another place to here, because they said there might have been the dimension or the walls between these 2 different places might be getting thin, and maybe that's where this thing came from.
Well,
too.
I thought it was thin specifically where we were, which is 2 days' travel from here.
I can tell you that 2 days ago the village was pretty normal. The only thing that really happened that was significant, although I don't see the connection, was a battalion came through heading north and came through the village pretty late in the day. It ended up camping just to the north of the village, I believe, for the night. But it was kind of exciting having an entire battalion coming through, and that happened 2 days ago. But that's all I can think of, really.
The battalion...
Where did they pass through? Where did they settle down?
To the north of here, he said that they camped for the night. They were going south to north.
And the farm is north of here also, right?
If you look on the Copshire map, the farmstead, the home, is actually in Area 2 on your Copshire map. And the barn itself is Area 3 on the Copshire map if you look on Roll 20. The army passed through on the south way. So they came from the south, which would be the right-hand side of the map. And they traveled through the village, up through to the north, and then off the map to the left. and they camped maybe a mile outside of town because they arrived pretty late in the day. And that's the only thing that happened, according to Merrick Plumbottom, 2 days ago. That was of any note.
All right, I go into the barn. Gabrielle, would you like to show me? I mean, I can see where apparently they were hung. Just tell me what you know and show me around and perhaps assist me in investigating.
I'm going to go in and look around for anything magical in the barn. Anything with magic residue out in there.
Mel was in the barn doing that investigation thing, so she's more than willing to help.
Well, when you say investigation, you mean magical echoes?
No, just looking around with eyes.
Okay.
Okay, so Mel will give you advantage, Alder, on your investigation check.
Thank you, Mel, because I rolled a natural 20 because of your assistance, which the total is 24.
They're trampled over quite a bit, but you notice the horse prints that were talked about. That was the only thing that was really unusual about any foot traffic coming into or out of the barn area that wasn't either Ulris or Galvin from days prior. The horse tracks, to you, Alder, seem there's something off.
I have spent the majority of my youth growing up in the court of temerity because of my mother, but I've spent the last 4 days pretty much dealing with the two horses we have on more than one occasion. So I've become familiar. Not an animal handling expert, but I do point it out to those that I know are much better at it. For instance, Marduk, could you take a look at this? This doesn't look right to me.
So Marduk and Mel come over to look at what you found. And what's interesting is their placement. They're too close together to be a
There's no horse that isn't this tiny. It's wide.
These were not made by four-legged animals. These were made by two-legged animals?
That's the gut feeling you're getting after Alder pointed out the spacing between them.
I mean, that was me taking a guess. Do you want me to roll animal handling?
No, you don't need to make a roll because he rolled a natural 20.
Oh,
so
okay.
I'm going to give you as much as I can just off of that roll because it's an amazing roll.
I think you already know. I'm just confirming your diagnosis. These are not normal horse tracks. These are made by a bipedal, that's not the right word. No, it is, but...
Is this the right word, I think?
Marduk would not say bipedal.
Oh, he probably would not.
Two-legged.
Two-hoofed or...
Well, it's also just an issue with the width, isn't it?
Yeah, it's too short. No horse made these tracks.
Mm-hmm.
No hoofed animal that I'm immediately aware of. Are the hoof tracks, is it a true hoof or is it a cloven hoof? We should be able to tell that.
As you look closer and really push away some of the straw that's on the ground and take into account some of the footsteps that have kind of passed over this area, unfortunately, it looks to you like it could be more of a cloven hoof than an actual horse's hoof. Whatever it is, it's still big.
Horse has a horseshoe. Is that the difference here?
Cloven hooves are like goats. Their hooves are split in two.
Well, there's plenty of that around.
What about a minotaur?
Yes, but the larger hoof prints do look cloven. It's very faint, and if Alder wouldn't have pointed out this particular one set of prints that survived most of the stepping on and most of the foot traffic that came through here, you never would have saw it. The rest of them have other footprints over the top of them, and they've kind of all blended together, so it's not really helpful. But what Alder did was he was able to find a couple hoof prints that were pretty unsullied. There was still a bit of damage to them, but you could tell they were cloven, and they were just too close together. They're big. Whatever it is, it's big, but it's not a horse. Not any horse you've ever known.
Grodor might be right. It might be something fey, like a minotaur.
Do minotaurs drink blood?
Minotaurs are a full hoof. You might be thinking of a satyr.
Or demonkin, sometimes.
True.
Bear the symbol, or the likeness of cloven beasts.
And the lack of blood, cloven hooves, bipedal, or walking on 2 feet.
Either way, cold iron will help us.
Yep.
Sorry.
And so will Amir's magic.
Indeed.
Is there any way I know Melody, you were doing a spell to tell if there was a magical aura left behind, and Grodor, I think you were doing something similar.
Yeah, I was going to just take a look around with insight to see if there's anything magical in this barn.
Yeah, is there any way you can focus, particularly on Fae?
If they were here, I mean, I just see what's physically here, not what's. It's hard to see residue. This is more or less what's magical in the area. Just I can see a glow around anything that's magic with the.
And Grodor, is that the detect magic spell?
Yeah.
Okay. You cast it or no?
Yeah. The cantrips, and it's the Eldritch Sight.
Oh, it's an invocation? So it's a special warlock thing, doesn't take a spell
I
slot.
think it's called. No, it does not take a spell slot.
Grodor, as you look around the barn, there doesn't seem to be anything magical.
Yeah, I look around the barn, and then I'm sure in that 10 minutes I might be able to take a walk around the outside of the barn, too, if I can, to see if there's anything outside.
Right. Nothing coming up as you take a step along the trees and the bushes that surround the barn area. You are able to not detect anything within the... I'll say you spent about, at this point, maybe 4 minutes walking around, and you've not found anything magical yet up to this point.
And while the spell lasts, I'll probably take a walk around the house, too, to see if there's anything jumping out at me.
Like the residents?
Yeah.
They're in there.
Yeah.
They're not necessarily invited, just as a warning.
I'm just walking around the house, not in the house, outside the house.
I trust you.
Grodor, there is a low stone fence around the homestead. If you look on the map, you can see it.
Yep.
Are you going around the perimeter of that, or are you jumping the low fence and going into the actual yard itself?
No, I'm just looking into the yard from outside the fence.
Okay. You spend another 3-4 minutes walking the entire perimeter of that low stone wall and do not detect any magic.
Yeah. Alrighty.
And what's the range on it? Is it 60 feet?
30.
Within 30 feet of me.
Within 30. So you're catching some of the house. You probably don't catch all of the house, but you catch most of it.
While Grodor's doing this, I pick up a pitchfork and I'm kind of tapping the floor to see if there's any sound of a hollow space underneath, or just on a whim.
Okay. You spent some time going around the inside the barn, correct? Is what you were looking for?
Yeah.
Okay. Nothing rings weird or strange. It's all just sounds or feels like hard-packed dirt.
Okay.
And about this time, Ulrich comes out of the house, makes his way up the path to the gated barn area, and finds Mel and Gabrielle, and doesn't really make eye contact with anyone else, just right up to you two since you were introduced to him. And he says, I wasn't able to find any cold iron in the house. I'm sorry, I don't think we have anything wrought with cold iron. There is a metal worker in town who might have something, but I thought I might have had a fireplace poker. But I was mistaken. It was regular iron.
Hey, Merrick, do you know where we could pick some up?
Well then, I think that we could probably try to wake up the smithy, knock on his door. I mean, I'm sure he's closed for the night and probably in the tavern, but we could try to get some if need be.
Does Merrick still have his pony?
No, he put his pony away.
Dang.
Yeah, we warned him that his pony might be in trouble.
Right, might be next.
That we warned him. That
Yeah.
ridiculous thing.
Dappleshanks is away for the night.
Dappleshanks the Dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
Fair enough.
It actually walks on 2 hooves, and
The were-pony.
it's the actual creature you're going to end up fighting later on tonight.
Okay, I was going to suggest that he run off to the blacksmith, but he's actually going to be slower, probably.
Well, if you guys want to continue your investigation, I can certainly go talk to the blacksmith and see if he has any cold iron weapons. It's kind of a very unique request. I don't know that he gets a lot of offers for cold iron weapons, but I'm certainly willing to ask.
Sure. I hand him a thing of gold, in case there's a cost. I don't want to have it fall on you, though you are a pillar of the community. This is a bit beyond what you should have to respond to, I think.
And how much do you hand him?
50 gold, just because I have no idea what cold iron weapons will cost and how much that'll set somebody back.
Okay.
And
he takes it and says, "You can trust me with your money. I'll be right back."
I mean, you, the mayor, if you robbed me, we'd have a real problem.
Well, absolutely. The pillar is the epitome of honesty and forthrightness in a village. That's the way it should be.
If you live that way, you'll be the best leader I've met so far. Well, okay, actually, I'm not allowed to say that. That actually would be treason. God.
Yeah.
There is a high exarch that you're supposed to... And you met him, as a matter of fact, as well.
You're a shining example of a pillar.
Why, thank you. I'll be right back. And
then I turn around to look at Alder's scowling form.
Ulrich says, "Are you just going to hang around all night? I got 2 kids I'm going to eventually be putting down for the night."
Yeah.
And
do borrow your
I don't
door.
know if you
Oh, sorry.
need any more information, or are you going to be hanging around here?
We don't need your house for that. We'll be camping out here by the goats. This is where all the incidents have happened, so...
We'll be hanging out by the barn, probably. Yes, this is where everything seems to go down.
All right, then. Well, then I'll put my youngest to bed, and my teenage son wants to come out and join you. He's getting ready to join the Soul Guard to do his part in the war. He's a young chap bristling with energy and vigor to strike a blow against our enemies. It'll take all I can to keep him inside tonight, but I'll try to keep him out of your hair.
If he insists on coming out, we'll make sure we keep him safe. That's the reason we're in your home, in your area, is because we want to keep you safe.
Well, thank you. It's mighty appreciated. And my youngest has got some nightmares the last couple of nights because he's worried about what's happening in the barn. So it's going to be a long night, I'm sure, for all of us. But I'll try to take care of the young ones, and like I said, I'll try to keep them out of your hair as best I can. If you need to talk or need any more information, just come knock on the door.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for the offer.
He walks back into the home and opens the door, and you see the golden glow of lantern light lighting up the home, and you see the movement of what looks to be like an older teenager, probably 16 or 17, cleaning up the table, and sitting at the table with a book in his hands is a younger boy with like a page, not a page boy cut, but like just a shorter hair enraptured with his book, reading at the table. Maybe 11, 12, somewhere in there.
I feel like if this is a supernatural thing, the nightmares might actually be relevant. But I don't know how to approach a child appropriately. Talk about their nightmares. That's kind of... I'll think about it.
I'm trying to think, is there a way we could set a trap in this barn?
It depends. We don't really know what would work as bait. It's gone for 2 very different things. I don't know what counts as an escalation from farmhand. Plus, we don't know that it was actually here. They might just be dragging it back here for ritual reasons.
It just seems to me like this is just a convenient place to hang something upside down to bloodlet it. Because there's hooks hanging from the rafters for just this sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. I think the proximity to the woods might actually be a factor. It could be that when the soldiers were passing through, they, like their friends near the Reverend Weald, managed to do something wrong. Set off a fae that's been harassing the villagers now.
Yeah, or maybe something was following the caravan and then decided to stay here. Thought the pickings were easier, less armed people.
Do you think that perhaps the army may have offended some spirits again?
Well, to be fair, I recalled after I said that sentence, it was...
they were heading to the
elf, actually. Their bloodshed spilled in hatred, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Uranus was the progenitor of that Still, though, yeah, I think the soldiers may have caused an incident. I don't think it's beyond them. I think marching a bunch of country bumpkins through a piece of territory they know nothing about is sure to rouse some angry spirits. War is destructive on the environment.
What's in this barn?
Goats.
Goats.
Lots of goats. 40 to 60, unless you're counting. About 40 to 60 goats. There's separate pens for the males and the females. There's other pens to keep some males that are aggressive separated from other male goats. There's basically just a large number of pens. The area that's not goat pens is an L-shaped walkway. There's tools hanging on the wall. There's bales of grain to feed to the goats.
Are there buckets?
Water. There are buckets, sure. Absolutely.
Do any of them show any sign of blood? Because I don't understand why you hang somebody from a hook and apparently want to drain blood from them, but there's none on the floor.
Mm-hmm.
Either you're eating it as it's coming out, or you're putting it in a bucket for a ritual. I don't know.
Go ahead and make an investigation check to check the buckets.
Okay.
Fun sentence.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right. Not so good this time. Only 7.
Well, it's getting dark in the barn. Here is sunset is happening and rain is
I don't see why I couldn't have helped
down.
out with this either, or as well.
Well, you can make your own investigation check if you'd like, because Alder had already started by the time you got an idea of what he was doing.
That's fair. He didn't find anything with that roll, did he?
Oh, sorry. So Alder, I wasn't sure if you were starting right up with him, like as he was getting started, or whether you were doing your own thing.
Yeah, I mean, I was trying to see if there's any indication of blood. Also, is there like 8 holes not holes, but 8 marks on the floor that show where the buckets were, and there's only 7. The one's missing. Simple things.
Yeah, you notice that there are 3 buckets in particular that are hanging on the wall. They look like they might be used for water to fill.
Well, I was assuming milking a goat, because you can get goat milk, you can get goat cheese.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I said you assumed, but you assumed more farming technique than I gave you credit for. So, yes, it could also be used for milking goat. And for other reasons, you can put some of their feed in the buckets as well and move it to the trough. You go ahead and search the buckets, and there is no obvious blood stains. Even with the roll that you had, there's no obvious blood stains in these buckets at all.
No blood buckets.
So you guys want to stay up all night, or do you guys want to keep watch? What do you think's the plan here?
At this point, it's 8:30, so it's still pretty early in the evening.
Right. Got time to bother people still.
Yes, and Merrick comes back with a sheepish look on his face, and your coin bag still looking quite the same as when you gave it to him.
Nice.
And he says, there's no cold iron weapons in this village to be had. I'm terribly sorry. It's just not a big demand. We don't have reason to not use fire, is what I was told. So I'm out of ideas as far as cold iron goes. If you think you might need it to battle something, I don't have any help there. Sorry.
No problem. Thank you for trying.
You're welcome.
We're going to keep running into reasons to have this. We just got to get our own.
It's true. Should have thought about it before we were leaving.
I think Marduk and I have weapons that can help.
That's good.
I know
Agreed
that we'd like everyone to have them, but
Yeah, my crossbow didn't do roughly shite, so I'm not looking forward to finding this creature, but we have to, so.
You guys want to check out this guy's house? Can we do that? I look at Merrick.
Yes.
What?
Which guy are you referring to? I'm sorry.
The deceased.
Oh, I thought you meant this house. Sure, I can take you over to the Strom household. That's not a problem.
Okay.
I'm going to stay here.
Okay. Alder's going to stay behind. Anyone else?
I'll stay.
Okay. Gabrielle. So Mel, Grodor, Marduk, and Brother Byron are going to go for a walk with Merrick. And it's about maybe a 10 or 15 minute jaunt. You get there. Merrick knocks on the door. A middle-aged woman in her nightgown comes to the door. Her hair is disheveled. Her eyes are red and puffy. It looks like she's been crying for a long time. She has a small little candle that she's holding in her hand. It's raining moderately now, not a terrible downpour, but it's starting to come down. And Merrick says, I'm so sorry to bother you. Melaine, these are people who are investigating and helping me look into the unfortunate incident with Galvin. Do you have a few moments to spare? And she looks at you guys, nods without replying, and keeps the door open and walks back into her home. Merrick follows in behind her, waving you in. There's a common room, almost like a living room type situation, that is got a dim glow of her candlelight. And there's a couch there and a couple of chairs, and she bids you to sit down. And she takes a seat on an old, very damaged-looking leather overstuffed chair that looks a little out of place in the room, to be honest, with the other rickety wooden furniture. She takes a deep breath, lets it out slowly, and says, how can I help?
We're investigating the circumstances leading up to the incident that happened, and we're wondering if there's anything you can tell us, anything unusual or noteworthy that might have been happening the few days before or the night when he did not come back.
Well, I can say that he's a young man. He was a young man, and he kept his business to himself, but a mother knows. And he had definitely been sneaking out late at night. I would say the last week or so. I don't know where he went or who he met, but I know that he went out to meet someone. And it was not every night, but most nights for the last week. He's been leaving the house around midnight and getting back in at 2 or 3 in the morning. The doors here squeak, and I'm a light sleeper. So, I know.
Can I take a poke through his belongings? Maybe this partner was witness to what transpired?
Or has a note.
I mean, that might lead us to the partner, but mostly I want to see, like, if there's something that can get us there.
Yeah, she takes a deep breath and lets it out again nice and slow and says, I don't suppose he'd mind you going through his stuff. I haven't had the heart to do so yet. But just try not to disturb it too much. It's all I have left of him. And she starts to slowly sob in her chair.
I hope I don't roll a 1.
Yeah, she points to the door leading off of the living room area that would have led to his bedroom. And you can go ahead and make an investigation check. Is anyone else involved or no?
I'll help.
Okay, so Grodor gives you an assist, a help action. That gives you advantage on your roll, Mel.
Then I've got a 14.
He didn't have a lot of possessions. He was obviously not well off. You don't see any other of the shirts that they described in the makeshift mortuary. You don't see any white fancy shirts. That must have been his only one. You see some plain clothes to use while you're at work in the fields or in the barn. There's a couple of personal items, like a pocket watch, that's very antique looking and old, like it's been handed down maybe in his family. A few coins scattered about in the drawers. under a couple of pairs of pants and a beat-up old dresser, the only thing of real note that you find is a folded piece of paper. It looks like parchment. You unfold it, and there is a heart drawn in lipstick. There is a scent of perfume that hits your nostrils. And 3 words. The lesson continues.
Ah. I sense a love triangle.
Time to find out where this lady's staying.
Merrick's confused because he hasn't been filled into the whole details, and he's like, did you find something important?
This here, I don't know if I want to show the mother, but Merrick's fine.
Oh, yeah. Well, that seems like a love note. Which I guess it kind of feeds into the mother's idea that he was having dalliances at night.
Sure, but the lesson continues doesn't give you any, notions of maybe it was the tutor. But where's the tutor at?
That makes sense. I was thinking more of an older lady and kind of showing him the ways of the world, if you will. But yeah, I can see where it could have something to do with Morgan. She's at the house a lot, tutoring the kids, and again, supposedly more. I don't know. But yeah, I can see that. We could go talk to her if you think there'd be of any use.
I'm not sure who else this could be, but you're the one who knows everyone in town, so what was your notion before I mentioned this tutor?
Oh, I didn't have a notion of a person. I just thought it sounded to me, the lesson continues, like she's teaching him the ways of love. So I just, in my head, thought it might be an older person. I wouldn't dare suggest who.
Well, it just said, all this is going down in this farm, and this tutor's been at this farm, so let's go talk to her.
Indeed.
Okay, then. She's on our way back, kind of. Not perfect, but I hope you don't mind getting wet. It's getting pretty stormy out there. He leads you back to the trail, then leads you up to where a street kind of bisects one side on the right going to the tower. He turns left and heads north along that particular street, and eventually brings you to number 8 on your map, which is Morgan's house. He knocks on the door, and there is no answer. He knocks on the door again. A light comes on from a lantern, a hooded lantern, and it makes its way towards the door. It is opened a crack to see who it might be at the door during this storm. Now, at this point, probably 9:30 at night or so, you see a beautiful young woman who looks at Merrick, says, "Merrick, what are you doing here? In the middle of the storm?" And Merrick says, "So terribly sorry to bother you, but we need to ask you a few questions that are involved with the mystery that happened at the Sundarrow farm. Do you have a few minutes?" She looks very distressed and very unhappy and very put out, and makes not a big deal of it, but you could tell in her body language as the doors open a little bit more as she's talking to Merrick that she doesn't really want to be bothered. You can pick up without too much of a insight check or a perception check that her eyes are red as well. Not quite like the mother, but she certainly looks distraught and upset. And eventually, after a kind of an argument back and forth over a few uncomfortable moments, she opens the door and says, "Fine, if you must, come in." And you enter into her home. She sets the lantern on a long kitchen table and says, "Have a seat." And we'll cut back to the farm at this point, where Gabrielle and Alder are in the barn listening to the rain fall on the roof in increasing tempo as the storm starts to roll in. And what are you guys doing as the time passes with your compatriots off investigating other parts of the town?
What was all that about when we came into town? This perfectly reasonable man came to us with a problem. I want an explanation for that.
I had a problem with him suddenly showing up in the middle of town and questioning. I don't trust people in charge. That's what bothers me. And I'm sorry that I got a little bit out of line there. In essence, he doesn't seem that bad of a man. But he also doesn't seem that good either.
Sure. But we had had a conversation not but 2 seconds before about whether or not we would trust this man until he explained what was up. We agreed to trust him. And then, you threatened him right before we made our good introduction.
You can trust him all you want.
Right.
I didn't say I trusted him.
Before. You said that you should do your job and I'll do mine, but here's the thing. If you threaten somebody the second you meet them, it makes it awful hard to do diplomacy. We're lucky that this is such a reasonable man. If this was a different kind of Hamlet, you can't go threatening the pillar just because they're small and physically threatenable.
You're right. I'm sorry. I'm struggling with some issues, and I shouldn't have acted that way. I apologize, and I will apologize to him later. I think we are helping him, but it certainly wasn't my idea, so you're right.
Okay.
But speaking of helping,
sure,
I think we might want to go talk to Ulrich, at least a little bit, because his two sons, they both seem to have a bit of issues.
Mm-hmm.
And I wouldn't mind asking just a few questions, but also trying to help them.
I'll come with you, certainly.
So we kind of dash in between the raindrops towards the house?
Yeah, it's about probably a 30-second dash, maybe 20-second dash. You get wet, you knock on the door. That door that you saw him walk into before, it leads into the kitchen area. Unfortunately, no one's in the kitchen area, and it is dark, so it takes a few more moments in the pounding rain for someone to come to the door. And it is Ulrich. He has a hooded lantern. He makes his way to the door and opens it up and says, "Please, come in." And
Thank you.
He steps back so that you can make your way into the kitchen. Do you need a towel or something to dry off?
It wouldn't hurt. But I do wonder, well, I wanted to ask you if it was all right if I speak with your younger son, the 11-year-old. And I don't intend to scare him. I actually want to try to help him. I had night terrors when I was young as well, and things that I had to deal with. I might be able to assist him in getting over some of the issues he's talking about right now.
Go ahead and make a persuasion check.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to give you advantage because you talked about night terrors.
Mm-hmm. I rolled a 15.
Okay.
11 plus 4.
He's talking to you while he's moving about the kitchen. He gets some towels for you and Gabrielle. He seems to be considering it and says he's an impressionable young boy. And he's 12, by the way, not 11. Good guess, though. He, I don't know if he'd benefit from it, but I suppose no harm can come if you talked with him. Let me get him, and I'll bring him in here, but I'm staying for the conversation.
Of course.
Understood? Okay.
What's your son's name?
Owen.
And the older boy?
That's Donald.
I might talk to him about his eagerness for battle. Tell him about the arduous training that I'd wholeheartedly recommend he go through before dealing with something that, for all rights, appears to be supernatural.
Donald is not around right now.
Yeah.
It was just Ulrich. So Ulrich goes to get Owen and says, he brings him in the room and says, "Owen, I got someone I'd like you to meet. They're going to be watching over the farm tonight, trying to protect us." Here we have, and he looks at you, Alder, realizing he doesn't know your name.
My name is Alder.
Owen looks up at you and says, "My name is Owen. Nice to meet you."
Nice to meet you as well.
And we also have, and he looks at you, Gabrielle.
Gabrielle.
Owen says, "Nice to meet you, Gabrielle." He nods his head, like,
You too.
and it was a little different, like a little shyer because probably you're a girl and you're somewhat attractive and he's a little boy, or a young boy. His dad, Ulrich, says, "Why don't you sit down, Owen?" And Owen sits down at the table, and then Ulrich says, "You two are welcome to sit as well if you'd like."
I grab a seat. Owen, I'd like to ask you a question. Earlier, when we were outside doing some investigations, I thought I saw you reading a book. Are you a reader?
Oh, yes, I love reading.
I love that too. I did a lot in my youth, and I still do a lot of reading. What exactly were you reading? I'm just curious.
Tonight I was reading a book on history. I like to know about our leaders and wars that were fought and treaties that were made and important crops that are grown and like cities that have been built up from the ground, like Temerity. I like history.
I actually come from Temerity.
Oh, really?
And I know a lot of history. Do you have any questions that maybe I can answer? I know that they don't have all the bits of history in a book. You need to read multiple books, and I'm sure you know that as well. But I've spent much of my life reading about history.
Is it really big?
Temerity?
Yeah.
It's an impressive city. It is
I heard
a wonderful
that it's
city.
like white marble with blue tiles. It's like white and blue everywhere you look, and it's just beautiful.
There is many buildings like that. Not all of them, mind you, but many of them.
Wow. That would be really cool to grow up in Temerity, huh, Dad? Yes, son.
Well, it is fun to grow up in a big city. But it's also fun to grow up where you've got nature all around you. You've got more space than the children, or excuse me, young men who live in Temerity. A lot of them live in small areas and not anywhere near as nice as this farm. So there's benefits to both.
Go ahead and make a persuasion check, and again, with advantage because you come from Temerity.
All right. I rolled the history roll, too, in case he asks any questions. And
Okay.
I got 14 on that. But persuasion roll is a natural 20 for a total of 24.
He says, yeah, I'm kind of glad that we live in Cockshire because we're far from what's happening up north. I'm just really, it makes me nervous that there might be another war. Ulrich says, there, son. And he puts his arm around Owen. And Owen says, it's just been on my mind a lot that there's just, I don't know, I worry about my brother because he wants to go off to fight in the war. And I don't want him to go. I don't want him to go.
That is completely understandable. And let me tell you about the last time that there was a war and what happened. And I go off and tell him the things that I have learned, which is, yes, we were invaded, but we defended. We kept everywhere south of here safe. We kept the enemy at bay as much as possible. We pushed them back. Yeah, people were hurt on both sides, and that's a terrible thing. But Temerity was kept safe, and this town was not damaged because of Temerity and because of the armies. And I know you're afraid for your brother, but I wouldn't mind talking to him as well, because I know that Gabrielle, who you may be able to tell at how she looks, is a mighty warrior herself. Very strong, a great fighter. And she can talk to your brother about this, but one of the things that I would like to talk to your brother about is keeping this city safe. Sure, you have Merrick, but your brother could defend this city and could help keep it safe, and yet still be here with you and your father, keeping you here safe.
Yeah, that would be nice if he could stay. That would be really good. But maybe he'll listen to you because you guys are like warriors and stuff, and he just wants to go so bad and make a name for himself. And I mean he's okay with the sword. I know he practices a lot and he's good and he's old enough, but Dad needs him here on the farm, and I need him here too. I don't want him to go away. And he gets a little bit teary, gets a little bit, you could see him he's really sad.
That's completely understandable. I understand your sadness and I understand your concern, but trust me when I say his skill with a sword is very important. But what's more important is his brains and his intelligence on how to get things done. And from looking at both you and your father, I know he must also be one very intelligent.
Well, he doesn't like books as much as I do, but I think he doesn't pay attention to his studies as much. He gets in trouble a lot with Miss Morgan, but...
Oh, trust me, Owen. I have an older brother. And somewhat similar situation. I'm way smarter than he is. But he's also wise, and he's also brave, and he's also safe.
That's good to know. Maybe when you talk to him, he'll decide to stay and he won't go off to war. That would make me really happy.
Perhaps if he could come with us and help us learn more about this town, and trust me, we'll keep him safe. I look over at Ulrich and smile. We will have some chance to talk to him while he goes with us.
Well, I don't mind you talking with him and maybe even walking around a little bit with him. But
we're not taking him with us. Trust me.
I would want him back before midnight because I trust his sword training is done well, but I don't know what we're facing with these killings, and I don't want him anywhere near it.
So, Owen, are you doing all right? Doing a little bit better?
Well, I do feel a little happier knowing that maybe Donald will stay and he'll be at the farm and not in danger of going off to war. That would be really nice. So, yeah, I hope your talk with him goes really well, and I can't wait to hear what he has to say once he gets done talking to you.
When I was young and when I was your age, I often had bad nights in which I couldn't sleep and I had bad dreams. And then, as a birthday present one year, my mother gave me this. And I show him an item that is simply a bookmark. And I don't know why, but it seemed to drive those bad thoughts and dreams away. And it also is useful when you're reading a lot. I kind of smile and wink at him. Mm-hmm. Here you go. I'd like to give it to you. So hopefully it will help you as well.
Okay, we'll say the bookmark has a painting of Temerity.
Temerity. Oh,
Temerity's
even better.
Skyline in one side and Amira on the other. Yeah, he's really excited and says, "Thank you so much. I'll definitely use it. Dad, can I go back to my book now and do some more reading?" "Sure, son. No problem at all." He kind of looks at you to make sure that you guys are done.
Yeah, I nodded him.
And he pats his son on the back, and Owen gets up and says, "It was really nice meeting you guys, and good luck in your conversation with Donald, because he could be really stubborn and really difficult and really annoying."
You are absolutely describing my older brother.
Yeah, that must be something with older brothers. He smiles really big, and then he skips out of the room. Ulrich looks at you guys and is like, hopefully, with that bookmark, maybe that'll get him to sleep through the night.
I hope so.
Much appreciated. And I'll go see if I can track down Donald and bring him in. And we'll cut there from that conversation back to Morgan's house.
Sorry, Gabriel.
No problem. I could have jumped more into that conversation, but I felt like you were handling it well.
Okay. Thank you for listening to Knights of the Night Actual Play Podcast. If you'd like to send us a question, comment, or feedback, you can reach us in a number of ways, including Twitter @KOTN_podcast or by emailing us at feedback@KOTNpodcast.com. And don't forget the iTunes reviews. We also have a Facebook page which can be found at facebook.com/KOTN.podcast. While on Facebook, you can join like-minded folks at our fan page at facebook.com/groups/KOTNfan. And lastly, there's our blog at KOTNpodcast.com, where there's an Amazon link on the right-hand side. For those of you who'd like a more steady way to help us pay the bills, or if you live outside the U.S., you can help by donating to our Patreon page at patreon.com/KOTN. And please remember to join us next week for more mystery and adventure. In the chat, it shows the rolls.
Die rolls, yeah.
Melody did a harmony. Melody did a persuasion of 16. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
My screen just said I was muted. Why are you talking? Zoom, yay. Jim and Mike, if you could move your mics a little farther away. Mike, I'm hearing some ear-piercing S's earlier. And Jim, you're popping your P's because it's a little close. Appreciate it. Sorry, don't mean to interrupt the game. Please continue.
It says, give me 10 minutes and let me take a look around.
Okay, so Grodor, you do the ritual version of Detect Magic. Spending 10 minutes.
Not quite that, no. It is casting time, one action.
Minutes.
It is a cantrip.
Yeah.
There you go.
6 seconds, but it lasts for 10 minutes.
There you go.
My bad. I'm sorry. I misunderstood. I thought he was doing a ritual version of a spell, which is 10 minutes long. To cast it for free, it doesn't take up a slot then. A Mrs. Robinson type situation?
He's quoting a movie.
Yeah, he is.
I didn't watch that one.
But,
I remember that play.
Right.
It's a morality play.
Owyn is the spelling for Owen. That's Donald. Donall.
I actually did not have to rate our podcast last week as explicit.
Not rated R?
No. There was no swearing.
Nice.
Usually I click on the explicit thing, and then under another setting I say language. Nothing but like coarse language.
Whole night without
Right.
swearing.
Nice editing.
I must have been talking to character.
I didn't edit it out. I don't think anybody fucking swore.
Well, that's good. You guys are, fists of Amira, so I guess there shouldn't be a ton of F-bombs with your characters being the godly sort, or trying to be the godly sort. Not too shabby. Good job with the clues tonight, guys. I didn't think, as the evening was starting, I thought you were going to go straight to whatever's going to happen tonight's going to happen. Mm-hmm. I didn't think you were going to unravel a lot of the mystery. I'm not saying it's completely done, but I'm saying you definitely found some clues that were there that I didn't know you were going to be able to dig out tonight.
Right.
Other possible titles available for voting on the Facebook fan page were Make an Investigation Roll to Check the Buckets. That sounds like salacious gossip to me. The lesson continues. Either way, cold iron will help us. I had night terrors when I was young. War is destructive on the environment. And no blood buckets.